Welcome back to the second hour of LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy. I am delighted, as I always am, when I get to have Enroue.
Hey,
Hello,
Babs.
Enroue. How are
Hi
you?
there. I'm good.
Yeah, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm a little tired this morning. Had a little restless sleep of like dreams waking me up, and I'm not really awake. I'm still in the dreamland. So that happened a bunch last night. So it doesn't result in like a bright, wakeful day. But I'm
well,
good.
I pray for restful sleep for you.
Oh, thank you, Ashay. I'll take that. How are you today?
Listen, I feel all right. Listen, I'm centered in my spirit. I feel all right. I know it's tough out here for people.
Yes.
It's tough for me too, but I'm
Yes.
choosing a different vibe for my headspace.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's do some chanting, some welcoming, some
Yes, I live for this.
centering, and connecting to the spaces that are places of support and affirmation of our value, particularly in times when so much of that is more explicitly under assault. So this chant is a Yoruba chant for our ancestors, thanking them for the ashe, for the gifts, for the blessings, the authority that they have left for us, that they've passed on to us. And those gifts, that ashe, those blessings that they've passed on to us, we are using them today. So that's the chant. We're welcoming our male and female lineage and all of our ancestors who do that, who we're connected to. Ìbà bàbá tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà bàbá tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà bàbá tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà bàbá tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣetè fún wa ńlá lóyè o. Ìbà bàbá tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣetè fún wa ńlá lóyè o. Ìbà yèyé tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egúngún tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà egúngún tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egúngún tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà egúngún tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣetè fún wa ńlá lóyè o. Ìbà egúngún tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egúngún tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egúngún tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣẹ.
Ashe. Amen. What is on your heart and mind today?
Well, so I recently returned from Nigeria.
Oh,
Hadn't been there in about 25 years. That was the first and only time I've was both in Nigeria, but the only time I've been to the continent of Africa. So the first time I went back in 2000 was for spiritual ceremony, for initiation into Ifa, into the Orisha. And I was there for about 6 weeks.
wow.
The ceremony was just over a week long, but then I stayed longer and did a variety of things. Traveled around a little bit, studied with a wood carver for a little while. It was really pretty amazing. And this time, my teacher and godfather, Wanda Abimbola, whose position among the Yoruba traditional community is as the Awishe Agbaye, which means the voice of Ifa for the world. So there are 16 Awos or Babalawos or Yanifas who hold specific positions, elevated positions in the tradition. His is basically as the person who interprets the literature of Ifa, the sacred literature. And so he was a part and involved in the selection of the new Alafin. The Alafin is a particular title of a king. Basically means who is actually the emperor of the entire Yoruba people, the Oyo, what used to be the Oyo Empire, which extended from like southern Nigeria through Togo and Benin into Ghana. So that's kind of the before colonization, which carved up peoples into nation states. That's really the realm of the Yoruba people. And so he was, my teacher was a part of selecting the new Alafin, who hadn't been selected since 1970. The last one was selected in 1970 and recently passed away. So he invited me and some other of his godchildren and students to come for the coronation. So we were there for about 10 days total, a little bit less, kind of culminating in the coronation. And it was quite amazing. It was really powerful to see people holding this office as this opportunity for this kind of renewal of Yoruba religion and culture in Nigeria. And while he doesn't have, his role is of the political leader. It's a different, since colonization, that's been diminished. There are now governors and, other people who are kind of explicitly have political power, but he has great influence with them. So it was amazing to see everything from, we went to a soccer game, the finals of a soccer tournament, which was kind of in honor of his coronation. And so he was there, and to see like this interesting blend of, one, the excitement of people, like it was just loud and crowd, but also this like traditional honoring of him. So there's these drummers who were playing, and among the Yoruba, the dundun is what we call the talking drum. And so Yoruba is a tonal language. So like Ogun is a different word than Ogun. Even though we might spell them in English the same, O-G-U-N, the tone, how we use the tone makes it a completely different word. And so the dundun, the talking drum, has the head, there are straps that connect the two heads that are flexible. So as you squeeze them, the tone of the drum gets higher in pitch. So it literally speaks Yoruba. And before I went to Nigeria, I thought, I'd heard the drum before, and it's like, oh yeah, there's like a tonal, languagey kind of feel to it, but I didn't literally know that it matches the Yoruba language. So when you hear a drum playing, you can actually tell what it's literally saying. So to be there and have, this blend of, him coming with like, modern security and vehicles, and then like people running with these huge umbrellas to shield, to go over him and his wife, and then drummers there, and these like trumpeters blowing their horns, and then coming over to sit, like really, they brought these thrones to sit in this soccer stadium to watch the game, or to be there. And then there was an MC who was basically had a microphone and was paying like a little bit of attention to the game, but was mostly like talking up the Alafin and his wife and the values and the crowd and my teacher. And it was a really powerful And yeah, it's just an amazing thing to be able to be present for. So to see the place that he's holding and the ways that people are really valuing this position and this opportunity and desire to really elevate the traditional religion, because it's with the presence of Islam and Christianity is has more like visible and structural weight to it. So in terms of like resources that are given to those communities and ways that they're in the society is very different from the traditional religion. So people are very excited about being hopeful that this, with this particular person's coronation and installment, that there's a way that the traditional religion will be held and honored differently. Because even though that's the place of it, colonialism and the impact of what elements of Christianity and Islam have done to the traditional religion has been pretty destructive. So there was that happening, right? So like of scale, right? That was like a massive scale. And for the coronation, I was able to be there in person with thousands of people, but then there were also remote locations all over the area that also had, I have no idea how many people, but they had like 10 or 11 locations that were being televised so people could gather together to even see it televised. But even with that, it was just really beautiful to be there again. It's kind of some old stuff that was challenging got resolved. Some ways of being there with a lot of ease was really wonderful. Some things that are really grounding and connecting with both my teacher and his family, as well as the other people who came. So it was and thankfully, going in and out was easy. And I say that because, there's really been an increase in, so people who are not citizens of like really being targeted and pulled aside as they travel in and out of the country, and having these long interviews and being harassed, or having their phones and laptops taken and scanned, et cetera, and actually have been hearing more of that happening to U.S. citizens also. So I was just concerned about what's it going to be coming back into the country. But thankfully it was smooth and easy. Landed in Atlanta and then went up to Boston and then took a train back from Boston. So just really thankful that the trip was smooth and easy.
Did you go alone or did the whole family go?
I just went this time. We couldn't. There were, which also meant that I missed my youngest musical performance at New Haven Academy. So
I heard she was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. Everything I heard about it and some of the things I saw was just glorious. They and the whole cast really knocked it out, and I was really happy to hear that, and sad to have missed it because the opportunity came up pretty fast. And had to move pretty quickly to get it done. But I was able to be back for their birthday, so that was really good.
Yay!
Yeah, so really powerful. So I'm still actually in the, not kind of like trying to integrate, like, I have all these things to do, but like I can still really feel the integration of that trip experience.
When did you get back?
I got back the 8th.
Okay.
So about a week now, a little bit over a week.
Okay. Did you see people that you knew? Like, did you know people?
Yeah. So my teacher and his kind of immediate family, so his wife, my teacher's wife and youngest son was there, and I know them well. And then also one of his older sons came, and I hadn't seen him in person in several years, so it was great to see him again. And there were actually several people who I recognized from 25 years ago.
Wow.
So that was pretty amazing. A lot changes, but there some things don't change so much. It was amazing to like I would see somebody and look at them like, wait a minute, I recognize you, and we talked a little bit, and sometimes they recognized me and remembered me, and sometimes not. But it was really, it was sweet. It was a sweet time. Yeah, it was really nice. And it was because I wasn't there. I was there to kind of be pulled along in the festivities and the things that were happening. So it was a very different way of being there than the like, I'm doing this thing and it's transformative and I have to, and then I want to learn some things, and there was less of a drive in that. So just much more openness to like how the day unfolds and who's there and things that happen and what we visit. Yeah, it was really sweet. It was really sweet. And it's really striking the spatial differences, not just crowdedness in terms of like pressing up, but just like density. I remember even just moving from New York to New Haven. My son, who'd grown up in, was 2 when we moved. We were walking around New Haven. He was like, "Where are all the people?" Because he was used to like as soon as you step outside of New York,
like busy,
right? There's people on the streets, and not hectic, but there's just a lot of folks. So it was really interesting to feel that also, like, wow, these like wide roads with like 2 lanes with markers instead of like a wide same width road with like 4 lanes of 5 lanes of traffic, people driving in and out, weaving. So just some of those things were really interesting to notice. Just being there for 10 days had such an impact on my system.
Oh yeah, easy.
Regular.
I mean, easy.
Yeah, so that was really sweet. That was sweet. And I think with this chant and these times, as things get more hectic, and as people are saying, like, this is where the barge is turning towards a more authoritarian rule. It's not just important, like, to me, my spiritual practice is not like a escape, like, well, that doesn't matter, I'm going to kind of pivot over here to this kind of glory and this other thing, but actually a way of connecting with sanity, actually, and richness and connection and community, and these actually larger values that are certainly being those are also under assault, right? What do we pay attention to? But it actually helps me to be more present, and then, which means I can be more skillful in how I want to respond, how I want to be strengthen connections with people, find new ways of talking about things. So, I do in a bunch of the consulting work, I do things that when it was in vogue, and now that it's like taboo language, right? This kind of DEI work. And, even before people started using that language, I was doing this work, and the language can be helpful, but the language also got turned into like kind of, it could mean anything. You start talking to people about, well, okay, in an organization, what does equity mean? I mean, everybody's going to make the same amount of money, right? Does diversity mean the point of diversity is just have lots of everybody, or are these things really about rectifying injustice, right? And this funny thing I came across recently, because there's a lot of organizations are like changing language and trying to figure out how to continue to get grants and funding that they were getting, and there's a lot of nervousness and confusion and fear and loss and things shutting down. And I realized, I don't remember where I heard it, but it was like the end of the Pledge of Allegiance, right? liberty and justice for all.
Mm-hmm.
And so for folks trying to find different language, right? There's language embedded in the Pledge of Allegiance, which one could say,
the precursor to
right?
equity and inclusion.
So there's all kinds of problematic stuff around how that's used and all the claiming of it, et cetera, et cetera. But like, these are also ways, like, how can we be creative in taking back and claiming the values of liberty and justice for all, truly what that means. And,
Yeah.
Quote it. You're writing something up, quote, and from the Pledge of Allegiance for liberty and justice for all. Like, okay, how that I would be surprised if those targeting whose purpose is actually to eliminate and undo progress and fairness and consistency in education and housing, in healthcare. It's not really about words. It's about doing what they can to keep power concentrated with certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we also, in our creativity, we also have to keep evolving and expanding and pivoting so that we continue to be explicit about what matters and not get distracted, and not let our fears about how we see power being exercised prevent us from staying connected to each other. And in that way, we're also really honoring these pieces of, what our people have really, not just what they've gone through, but the gifts and the blessings that are really fundamental to our lives now. Like, we are here now, we're alive. And so we have opportunities. It doesn't mean we have to fix something, but we really do our part. We carry it from here to here. And that's our part. Mm-hmm. And those who come after pick it up here and carry it there. And that's their part. And the ones before us took it from that point and carried it to us. And there can be I know for me, so much of like early coping was about figuring things out and getting it right. And that's what I thought was going to lead to like success and being able to navigate complicated social, political, familial dynamics, period, right? Not just kind of big picture things, but like how to navigate in the world. And a lot of that is a real response to trauma. Like, if I can have things figured out, if I go into a new situation and I like suss it out, then I know how to navigate it. It's like, Black people in this country, we've learned around like what is code switching, what are safe behaviors. If we conduct ourselves this way, then we'll be safe. If we conduct ourselves that way, right, that could be dangerous. And like none of those things have really resulted overall in our like safety and well-being. But there are ways that we thought that like, oh, if I, get this education, get this kind of job, look this way, talk this way, then I'll be safer in the sight of kind of what white supremacy is and the myth of that and the powers and the structures that promote that. Mm-hmm. And those are not, those coping skills are not actually guaranteed to work. Lots of folks, are at the receiving end of a lot of violence, regardless of what they knew, right, or how they presented or not, in the face of real violence. It doesn't matter, right? We're dehumanized. And so that desire to like control and figure things out, and that's what's going to lead to safety, is really a myth and an illusion. And so the more that we can really find our way back to like, oh, well, like I have value, not because I fit in over here under these circumstances or conditions, but because I have value. So let me honor that and uplift that and connect with other people who can support my value and I can support theirs, even in a system that puts conditions on who gets valued and who doesn't, right? You look a certain way, you act a certain way, you present a certain way, you're valued and accepted. You look, act, present different ways, you're not valued and accepted. And we don't have to internalize that. We obviously want to work to make sure that there aren't, organizational and structures, right? That there aren't structures in the way that are perpetuating that. Mm-hmm. And we want people not to feel that way either. But that's, if the systems are in place, then that's just somebody's opinion, right? If they don't like me, okay, that's your opinion. But if they don't like me and they have some control over what I can access and don't access, that's a different piece, right? If the control doesn't counter their bias, right, or their particular views about me being less than. And so to come back, like these spiritual practices that are humanizing help us to orient and to be grounded in our own inherent value, to be in this life in the way that like life is really open for us to be in and to discover and to be curious about. And let's develop communities and connections and organizations and structures that foster that. And when that is then under assault, attack, right, when that's being undone, when there's elements of like, well, if you don't toe this certain line, then you're evil, right? You're somehow a traitor, right? And then language gets shifted around like who's on whose side. We have to engage in that a little bit more explicitly. And so these practices can help us to have courage to be seen and to be heard. Not all in the same way, but even in little ways of like really honoring our own humanity and the humanity of people who it's easy to see as other, whether they're people of color or people who are not citizens or people with different abilities. It's really important that we expand who's like on our side, right? Who's our people? Because a lot has been constructed about who is our people and who's not, right? So, blackness is a construct of a system of white supremacy. Not that we don't have people like African heritage people don't have certain types of culture, certain types of peoples, and certain type of what melanin is, how it exists in our bodies, right? Yes, but how it's framed is very much entwined with a definition that is hooked into and as a response to white supremacy. And so let's not lose our humanness even as black people. We're trying to reclaim that. Oh, they're not black, so they're other, right? They're not like us, or they're attacking us or less than us. Well, let's not do that, right? How do we continue to expand what our notions of who our people are? Mm-hmm. Particularly in the face of folks who want to use that and leverage that, right? Even our notion of who's on our side, who's not on our side. What gets included in blackness? What gets left out of that are things to really question and be curious about. What is my fear trigger? Right? When that starts to happen, like, we start to get less creative, we start to be able to be open to less. And so the more that we can be connected to like, oh, right, this wonder of life that we're in. And how can I really be here as fully as possible? And who can support me being here, and who can I support being here? And to be aware of like, right, all the isms and systems that are in place and we can choose to navigate that differently. We don't have to, even in small ways, cooperate with this notion of, these are worthwhile human beings and those are not worthwhile human beings. So, just trying to be with all of that and also not turn it into the like either overwhelm, everything's too big and too much, right? And let me just glaze over and get sucked into my phone. But also to not then feel like, I have to do this impossible thing either, like run out and do the biggest thing ever. Like it can be, how do we stay connected to each other? Where's kindness in this? Right? Can I, we have so much here, even as, there's so little, right? There's so many people with so little here. There's also so much we have, and to not be afraid if, I can't buy this thing that I want to buy, or what I've honed my identity on changes. To keep looking deeper at what we have and where there are resources, how to be creative about all of them. So, nice light things that have that are happening, right? Yeah, like this piece around like finding our place and the part that we can do. And like that's how things also change, right? It's not it's easy to get accustomed to like the story of like, here's these movements happened and they just happened and they were like the leaders and the bigness, and like so many things are like little trickle, and then like, we're together, and then there's a movement.
Yes.
Right? The movement is a result of something. It's not like, all of a sudden there's a movement I can kind of jump in on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these are times.
These are the times.
But we've always had, when you look at history, I think about, it's always been time. Like I think about Harriet Tubman all the time.
Yeah.
I think about her all the time, about when you make the decision to say, I'm going.
Yeah.
And then you got to get everybody or whoever want to go on board, and to hold them in a motivated space to want to go. And then and to deal with their fears when they want to like
not go.
I don't know about this, Harriet. Like I gotta.
This is hard.
Yeah. I think about her all the time.
Yeah. Something that's really powerful is, so my great grandmother, who was from Virginia, actually was a historian and documented a lot of instances of revolts, people who were enslaved revolting. And they were very often in like small newspapers because that was like the local news, right? Like these things are happening. And pretty much everything that she had like brought together that was stored got set on fire and burned. But what was striking is that when we think about the narratives of people who resisted and left and escaped and revolted in whatever scale and scope, we have so few stories. We have the Harriet Tubmans, right? John Brown. We got, here's like the few who did a thing, and I guess everyone else just made do.
Yeah, and that's not true.
It's not true. Which is
so much resistance.
So much resistance.
So much resistance.
And even my wife's grandparents, who met in a death camp, her grandmother, one of the jobs was to go through clothing and to because people had like hidden pictures and wealth and money in clothing. So it was to go through clothing, take out those things, and then if there was nice clothing, that got separated to be given to the Nazis. And so what she would do is she would tear and damage the nice clothing so that they wouldn't get their clothes. And so resistance can look like many, many things. It can look like the Harriet Tubmans. It can look like, my wife's grandmother tearing the thing so that it's not then used, right, by the people who are killing and murdering.
Yeah.
And so we do our best, and we look at what our capacity is, and we shore ourselves up, and we shore each other up, so that we have greater capacity to be a person, and to remember that our personhood with ourselves and with each other. And for me, connecting to my ancestors and connecting to the earth, right? These actually big bodies are really helpful, right? And connecting to the divine is really helpful. Again, to like bring me back to being a person in a wondrous time, because this is the time we got. And so let me be a person in this time and see what that takes. Because what we got.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's be a person in this time. Just be a person in this time.
Person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad you're back.
Yeah, me too.
Glad you're well.
Me too.
Say hi to everybody at your house.
I love that. Big hugs and greetings to you and all your journeys and all your questings.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, Harry. We're out.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Enroue. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.